Hello, dear one. I would like to follow up a little bit from yesterday's video where I did mention the word addictions amongst others, beliefs and the old emotions coming back, which drive us into addiction. But I want to just make sure that I'm not misrepresenting myself as an addiction therapist or specialist, because I am not. I am more like a self-love mentor is what I've called myself for many, many years. And I'm a certified Hakomi practitioner, which is all about the whole embodiment and bringing up to the surface and meeting all the parts in us that are still living divided from ourselves, not integrated, not loved. And of course, at a certain point, when we are able to bring them all back home into the fold of love, into the ocean of love, then we won't have these painful emotions that drive us into addictions. And when I talk about addictions, I'm not just talking about drugs or alcohol or cigarettes. I'm basically talking about anything that we are both attached and addicted to. And one of the main things we are addicted to, of course, is our emotions, even though we think we want to get rid of them. And I know at a certain level, we absolutely do want to get rid of them. But there is also some kind of an addiction to the rush of these feelings, whether it's addicted to anger, addicted to drama, addicted to grief, addicted to being a victim. See, there's many addicted to cortisol, right? That chemical that these chemicals they give us these internal rushes. Then even though they do not feel comfortable and we don't like them, there is still a part of us that are not ready to fully let go of them because there is a sense of familiarity to it. There's even a kind of a quirky sense of safety in it, as crazy as that may sound, because it is so familiar. And there is this sense that when we have that, then we are safe, then we're able to cope with the circumstances, because that, of course, is what we grew up in. And we learned these coping mechanisms that were not necessarily healthy, but somehow it felt like they kept us safe and in charge. That is why we are still addicted to these rushes of these chemicals called emotions. And that's why it's also difficult to let them go, because there is something in there that still feels right or safe or empowered. There's also a big sense of empowerment when we are addicted to anger or blaming others. That's a very big one, right? I think I mentioned that one also yesterday. So we need to be aware, what are these emotions that are arising? And are we able to meet them instead of let them take over our body and our nervous system and our emotions? That's where we can start shifting the energies and the attachments and the addictions, whatever addiction it is. It could be an external substance or the internal substance of the chemical rushes that all these emotions give us. There is no safety in it. The only safety is in it, I think, is that there is a sense of it's just familiar. At least I know this, right? That I don't know how to deal with, but this is so familiar. So I can just let this ride out. But what happens then if we are willing to fully let it go, to fully release it? Those feelings, I'm not so much talking about the substances, the outside or external substances, but the internal, what if we if we chose to not be angry all the time or a lot of the time? You can just see which emotion you are attached to. It could be stress, that's the cortisol rush, right? Anger, I don't know what all the different chemicals are, but what would it be safe? Would you feel safe to let them go, to not engage when they rush up like that? Would it be possible for you to say no? Doesn't mean you're able to do it all at once, but would you be willing to say no when that rush of feeling justified to blame others, to be angry at others? Would you be able to just say, no, I'm going to put you on pause. I do not want to engage with you. And you can just check in yourself, whether it's anger or stress or grief, victim, feeling like a victim. It's all about, I don't know if I should expose the reason, but for most of it, it is a fear of stepping into our power, our full sovereignty, our full divine expression. And when we are in that, we are literally fully responsible for our experience. That is very powerful. And it can also be very scary. There's all these beliefs behind it, like, what if I make a mistake? What if I'm not loved when I'm fully authentic and sovereign? What if the project that I'm creating all by myself, what if it fails? Like, who can I blame? Who can I blame if I know that I'm sovereign and fully empowered in everything I am and do? Is that scary to hear that or to imagine that you can step out of being a victim? And again, we are acting, and I'm including myself, by the way, in all of this. This is all the things that I've been working through for many years and still am. But if you look at your life, whether it's addictions or attachments, can you see that you are basically making yourself a victim of life? You're making yourself a victim of your emotions, of your body, of your environment, of the government, right? We are making ourselves victims of almost anything. So when we have some of these emotions that can be powerful, such as anger or rage, there's like a sense of like, now I feel empowered. But we're not, just blaming others and being angry at others. That's not real empowerment. That is just a reaction to your own lack of power. And let's keep this very, very kind and loving and gentle and not make ourselves wrong for any of this. We have all been in this same boat called victim of inner and outer circumstances. We've all been floating along in this boat. And then when somebody jumps out and say, hey, I want to be myself, then everybody's like, no, you can't be, because there is a fear that others stand up in their power, in their true power, because there's something like, well, maybe I need to do it too. Like, no, you better come back. Then I don't have to give up my role as a victim. And again, I want to say, this is not a judgment. This is an observation we can all make about our own life and find out, do I want to stay a victim? What is important about experiencing myself as a victim? And I can almost imagine there might be people here who's like, well, you don't understand, my situation, and you should da da da, and look what they did to me, and I have the proof here and evidence there, right? That is how we justify our victimhood. That will only keep us in there. And is that what you want? So this is a very, very sincere question that I'm going to ask you to take inside and feel. Let the answer be a feeling, not this one. It's probably going to say, no, I don't want it, with an attitude of, with anger, right? So that's still that battling energy. Do you want to remain a victim of life? Let's just say of life everywhere, inside and out. Just take a moment and just feel whatever arises in you when I pose that question. Do you feel a clear no with an energy of like power? It's like, no, no. Or do you feel, a justification of it, or being a victim, or anything in between? That is your experience. And that experience, it's either going to make you feel like a victim or more empowered. And it's always a question, we do have free will. Which one shall it be? Victim or sovereign? I would love for you to comment below and let me know what comes up for you. This is very, very important subject. I wasn't actually, I didn't know that I was going to say all this today. And that's how it is with most of my videos. But sometimes like, oh yeah. I mean, I'm always learning as I just speak the words. It's like it's just coming from within, uncensored. And that, by the way, that is a place where I feel empowered because I'm not a victim of it, or I'm not feeling empowered. There's just a sense of like, yeah, I'm just in my flow and I trust this more than anything. And I have no idea how it's going to land out there. But that's not the point, because I don't want to be a victim of my own expression and hold it back. I've done that plenty in my life. And I chose not to do that anymore. And that's why I'm just allowing the flow now to flow. And then it shows me, where it wants to go, what wants to be spoken. And that's about all I know. But I know very clearly that I do not want to be a victim of myself or others anymore. Sometimes it might still be like that because we live in a society, like the whole society is based on being a victim. So, can we start at least coming out of being a victim to our own emotions, our own addictions? When we rise out of that, then we do move into our sovereignty, and then we start emanating a whole different energy that will start dissipating that victim frequency that is everywhere, almost everywhere, whether people know it or not, or want to be responsible for it or not. Just being strong and saying no, that doesn't mean that you're free from a victim part, because when you're free, you don't need you don't have the need for all this battling energy. It might still show up. I'm not saying it. Sometimes, I mean, for me, sometimes I come through with a very clear no, like cutting through cutting with a sword through the illusion or something, whoom. But then I don't need to hold on to it or make a story out of it. So let's look at that today, just based on yesterday's talk about, how when old addictions and beliefs and attachments start coming back, there is this way where we can, like I talked about yesterday, breathe into that discomfort and stay open and say, yes, yes, you're free to leave. You're free to leave. And maybe we can start inviting the victim in us, that part of us that has been identified as a victim, to the world and to ourselves. End of story. Can we invite that part and say, okay, honey, you are free to leave too. I don't want to imprison you any longer as a victim. I want you to be part of the whole, the oneness, the wholeness, the sovereignty, the divinity, where there are no victims. There is just the never-ending infinity and love and power, true power, not power over, but just the power of this energy, which is very powerful, right? It can create and does everything, whether it's good, bad, or in between. And that's when we can start embodying our sovereignty, our own divine sovereignty, because we are giving up the identity as a victim. And that, my friends, that's deep work, because we are in these identities on so many levels that we do not even know about. So it's not a small task. I know most things I share, it's not a small task, but somebody has to say it, right? It is something we all need to break through, these roles where we have identified as being separate from the divine and therefore live as victims. So I hope you will respond in the comments, and please like, subscribe, share with others if you think they might resonate with it. And I will talk to you again soon. Thank you for watching.